Well, I'm Pierre Maranda. I'm at Laval University. I conduct research on the Pacific Islands, especially the Solomon Islands. I've been working in Malaita since 1966 in the framework of the Harvard, at that time, British Solomon Islands project. It was a very large project that we conducted for several years to evaluate the impact of culture on health. And so the project started with scouts that explored Pacific communities in the South Pacific mainly that had not been properly ethnographized. So, and then there was a medical team that joined us, the ethnographers. So we spent 2 years preparing their arrival, explaining to the people what they would do, what they would be interested in. And so I was there with my first wife, who was a linguist and a folklorist. And so we had to learn the language, the customs, the whole ways of life, and the way that people were reacting to the presence of outsiders among them. And their culture at that point was still very intact. They still conducted rituals and all sorts of, traditional practices. And that was one case that the medical team that would come after 2 years, they would join us and stay among the people for 30 days. And the team consisted of 13 specialists. There was an ophthalmologist, a pneumologist, all kinds of medical people, a dentist, and so on, that then conducted tests. So they came with a generator and all kinds of medical equipment, and they tested those people to see how their culture would vary over time. And so conduct a diachronic study of their food habits and the general way that they lived their own traditional culture, so that at the end, after, say, 20 years, well, it lasted 15 years, the project. So with the impact of the external world and the gradual intrusion of Western practices, foods, and ways of life, mainly Christianity, how it would it modify their metabolism and other states, other components of their well-being. And indeed it did. And but then I continued working with those people because I got very involved with them, and at a point I organized what we call the Lao cultural. Those people are called the Lao people, L-A-U, and we set up a very interesting project called the Lao Cultural Preservation and Tourism Project. So in order to counteract the impact of missionaries, whereas, traditionally telling them that they were savages and their ancestors were all dupes of the devil, and all that, all stories and cosmologies were completely wrong. So we set up the senior people over there, with some younger people as well, that project. And it lasted for 3 years, and after that, the missionaries made a blitz. That was fundamentalist SDA, actually, because the core, the older section of the lagoon, the point from which departed, migrated other members of the clans that constructed or built those 63 artificial islands, while the ancestral islands, the 2 ancestral islands, the oldest ones, were in the core of the lagoon, and that was the main target of the SDA people. So after a group had left, they came with a generator, all sorts of hi-fi and DVDs at that time, was it was taught in CDs, and night and day they would evangelize those people. And they were successful because they made 53 baptisms after 2 weeks of night and day preaching. So what happens to those people is that now they are all converted, but nominally Christians. They still believe very much in their old traditions. They still believe in their taboos and the spirits and but yet they confess that they don't know who they are. They say our guts ache because we know that we're not pseudo whites, but we are no longer what we used to be. But now even fundamentalists are beginning to wander and to have some sort of homesickness for their traditional ways of life. And they said, well, that's where we're at. That's the truth. That used to be our truth. But now we don't know what to do. So they have built a house of culture and they are trying to slowly rebuild some kind of parameters that might enable them to reconfigure their society the way it would be productive, the way it would be congenial, the way it would be their own and not a pseudo-white community.